You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 375, Reunion, the halfway mark of season 1 of The Bad Batch. And I think we got the return of somebody we were looking forward to, and the return of somebody we were not expecting. And so, with those regards, I think we can say mission accomplished in terms of what a reunion was and what the show title was for. So, to help me talk about that is a reunion of our own sorts here. We were here just last week, and we're back again. Jonesy, welcome to the show, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well, sir, man. Loving that hat.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I can't find my Mandalorian one, which is I normally wear the black one, but
See,
not sure with that.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes here for you guys. So we were having a meeting earlier in this week with Mike and Albert and me, and Albert didn't have a hat on. And it's not like we don't see Albert without a hat. At Celebration, he didn't really want to wear one much of all. You wore one a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But on the show, he's almost always got one on. And so we give him a hard time. It's just been forever since we've seen his hair. It was all super spiky.
Yeah.
So it was looking real sharp.
Well, thank you, sir.
Anyway,
You want to buy me a drink?
Later, cowboy.
All right. Okay, that's enough. Easy. All right, well, let's, we've got just a couple things to get to, and then we're going to go right into this because there really wasn't a whole lot of breaking news. But I think let's first talk about, I've got 3 books here. I know we were just talking about these. We posted them up. That's the Shatterpoint re-release from Legends, which is freaking awesome. That cover there. Path of Destruction just came out as well.
That's
and
so
then,
cool.
And then, of course, the Heir to the Empire one, which is still, I mean, I don't know. It's still one of my favorite Star Wars books all time.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new one now. I think I've probably made that publicly clear.
And that cover is just so sharp.
Oh, yeah. These are great. But they're paperbacks.
Yeah.
So if you haven't had a chance to pick these up, if you've never read them, do yourself a favor and go read these. All 3 of these books are pretty stellar. I mean, I know for all the crap that Legends gets, there's a lot of bad stinkers, but there's a lot of good ones in there too.
Maybe Legends is back.
Maybe Legends is back.
Well, and Shatterpoint has for the first time ever, an audio drama,
right.
audio book version of it.
Did you pick that up?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay.
I've not actually read Shatterpoint.
Oh,
so
yeah, you need to get that one. It's actually pretty decent. It's a good one.
Yeah, I might. I've always got a stash of Audible credits just waiting to be spent on something random. So I'm finishing up the second Thrawn book on audio right now and looking for something next. So I will do that.
But yeah, so I just want to say thank you to Del Rey for sending us these copies ahead of time. That's always appreciated. And I can't honestly going to go back and read. Like I've been chomping at the bit to read Heir to the Empire because of the Rising Storm, which we'll talk about soon here. And yeah, what a great tie-in to kind of get that as well. So in addition to that, we got our pre-releases, our advanced reader copies of Race to Crash Point Tower, which is this one right here.
Yep.
And it's a little bitty book. I mean, my goodness, I think I read this in under 2 hours, and that was like taking my time, getting up and get coffee. It's a quick read, and I guarantee you're going to fall in love with Jedi Ram in that one. He's such a cool character. And then there's this one.
Oh my gosh, folks, this book is awesome. Like, yeah, for Light and Life.
Yeah,
I even programmed my Google box to start saying that instead of "We Are All the Republic." Dude, I'm all in, man. That book was fantastic, pretty much start to finish. Yeah. And there's not often I getting real excited about a book like just from the beginning to end. And man, that book did it. It is really, really good. And we were talking, we both can't wait to go read it a second time before we actually do a show on it.
Yeah, we need to.
Isn't there, and there's an alternate cover of that one too, coming out that you're trying to get, right?
So there's 3, and I've already picked up this one, Goldsboro, which is out of the UK, did a similar version just like this, black cover, although I think it's black, I forget, but what they did is they painted the pages green, around here. So I don't think it's a black though, I think it's a greenish color, and it's just the same cover art. So I picked up that one, that was about 38 pounds. which is probably going to be about I don't know, $60 book, $50-$60 book when it's all said and done.
Yeah, because the other one you're going to get to about $50, right?
Yeah, and then the other one is the $50 one, and that goes on sale June 29th.
That cover is sharp.
It is. That's the background that I've got right now behind me, and that's the one that comes with the tote bag, which I'm not really. I mean, I didn't want the socks either, but I still wear them, so I may use the tote bag. I don't know, but I just want it for that cover, and because I got the first one, so. But yeah, I mean, just again, I want to say thank you to Del Rey and for Disney Books, because Del Rey sent us this one, and then this is obviously from Disney Press themselves. So 2 different groups all working for the same cause, and then we've got one more still coming out with Out of the Shadows, which will be out in about 2 to 3 weeks for the ARC. So
yeah, big thanks to them. It's really cool to be able to get them and give you guys an early impression on them, and then be able to do a thorough review really close to when they're actually released to the general public. So that's really exciting. And we know the embargoes have been lifted for some of these books, but they've asked us to be as spoiler free as we can until they come out. So if you are a Patreon member, you got Albert's kind of first take on them as well. So if you're signed up for that, go check that out. And if you're not, it is well worth your time. Albert gives a nice little rundown and his kind of initial thoughts on it all. Yeah.
And then we hadn't really talked about it, but I would love to go do the same thing we did, just as a personal journey for me to go through the book chapter by chapter, like we did with Light of the Jedi. I wasn't sure if we'd do it with this one, because I was like, well, if it doesn't do really well, then maybe not. We just do a high level summary. But there's so much that happens almost every chapter or every other chapter that it could be a while to get through the whole thing. And
it's going to be what we're talking about. It's going to be the basement, man.
We can only hope. I would be ecstatic if that was the case. All right.
You're right, though. I don't know how we would do that in any less than probably 35 episodes.
Yeah, so we'll do a chapter a night.
We've got the rest of the year planned already.
Maybe that's what we do. Maybe we do like a chapter a night. We'll throw it up on Patreon, and everybody else gets kind of like the review show. I don't know. We're kind of making this up on the fly, and we shouldn't be doing that. So,
all right. Hey, there was something else though. So if we're moving off topic there, so I joked about Legends coming back earlier. You had sent me something about the fiction. What was it? The fictional series. What was it exactly?
So they're collecting all of the Light of the Jedi stories, the Pulp Fiction stories, and that's probably not the right term, but they're collecting all of them out of the Star Wars Insider, and they're going to release that as some kind of a publication come December. Mm-hmm. But it's called, the wording they use is
the word. It's like the fiction series or something. You actually use the word fiction, which really caught me off guard, because I mean, are we branching down that way now? I mean, we had speculated a year or two ago that they could bring back Legends and they could do it in this kind of way, but now we're doing it. Or is this more of this? What do they call it? Like this tangential canon? What do they call it? Oh, canon adjacent.
Canon adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah. So these like canon adjacent tales of the Starlight Beacon and things like that, or because it kind of seems like it. They've got Starlight something on there. I'm a terrible podcaster today. I completely brain dead on everything.
Yeah, no, your point's valid though. Like the fact that they use that word to call that out is interesting and intriguing, and I just don't know where they're going to go with that. It definitely caught my eye, but I know you were like, "What the heck? What does that mean?"
Well, I just laughed. I yeah, I just laughed. I was like, "Okay, we're going here."
That'll be out in December. So hopefully, as part of Patreon, it's not even hopefully, we are, because I've already been planning. I've already written show notes out, but I do want to cover those. But I'll probably cover them as like a whole section. Like, there's 2-3 parts. We'll cover them all together as one, rather than each episode as a month release from Star Wars Insider.
Yeah. And speaking of other things that we need to cover, it would circulate on our Discord, earglemedia.com/Discord. We finally get a picture of Markion Rowe in the High Republic Adventures comic. So, and I think our folks were speculating, I believe correctly, it's the first time we actually get to see his face. So if you are interested in seeing that, the High Republic Adventures, I believe it's issue 5.
It just came out Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, just this week. So exciting stuff. And those stories are actually pretty good. Even for the younger reader one, which I'm usually not much of a fan of, those have been pretty solid. And so we're looking forward to being able to get into some of those with our Patreon folks.
Yep.
Here pretty soon.
Yes. And if you follow Charles Soule, he made a comment about his looks, Markion Rowe's looks. I'll just leave it at that because it could be considered a spoiler. But out on Twitter, he made some comments about that. So anyways, Hey, before we go any further, speaking of Patreon, do you want to give a shout out to our latest Patreon member?
Yeah, Brendan, man, we appreciate you signing up. And
that was Rob.
Rob. No, Brendan was last week. That's
Brendan
right.
Was last week.
That's what I tried to do everything else. Yeah, so Rob Gudmestad. That's why you wanted me to do it, because you didn't want to pronounce the last name. Yeah, right. Hopefully I did that right. But anyway, he signed up. Right. He signed up for our green milk tier, man, which is really cool. So he gets the whole kit and caboodle, and we appreciate the support, Rob. I know I believe he's been a Patreon member before, and I know he's been at least on the Facebooks and stuff like that.
He's been active on social media.
Yeah, we've seen him for a long time. So we appreciate you coming in and signing up. And if anybody else wants to join him, again, we kind of been teasing a lot of the content that we're doing. We also do an after show after this live broadcast. There's another one that goes out, and we wax poetic about a certain aspect of Bad Batch as kind of the current themes. And you can go check all that out at patreon.com/thecantinacast.
Yep. And if you're curious as to what we're going to talk about tonight for the Patreon stuff, there's the title art or the title card there. So look at that title, man. Who came up with that title?
I know. So for our audio listeners only, Albert has a very close-up look of a slightly scratched up Cad Bane with the title of The Cad Catch.
Ha, ha, ha.
See what he did there?
Yes. Yeah. That's clever.
It is.
All right.
So Albert asked me, he's like, hey, should we actually roll with this? I'm like, dude, it wouldn't be you if it wouldn't be right if we didn't go with something. It's becoming a theme, So the Patreon content's got like just some pun attached to it, or dad joke.
Yeah. Which the bar is kind of low, so I'm not too really concerned about trying to one up myself, every time. So, but yeah, I think it'll be fun. We'll try to keep it going as long as we can. I can't promise they're all going to be good. There'll probably be some stinky ones in there. So you've been warned.
Yeah. And hey, a quick shout out. We got Ryan C. Showers' new Scream show coming out this week, I believe. That's right.
Yeah. By the time this show releases, it should be out. I'm just waiting on Apple. Come on, Apple. Get with it. It's been like 4 days now. So
it's just like all their users with features. You eventually get it.
Oh, geez. Ouch. Shots fired.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, but super excited, man. Got to hear the intro and outro music and the vibe and preview of the show there. Man, it sounded really good. Ryan's going to be a great show, I think. So I think people are going to like it if you like Scream, or if you just like listening to someone who just knows a lot of stuff about something, which I'm one of those people. Anyway, now Twine's telling us our video feed's out. Well, we'll just roll with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But anyway, so we got Ryan. Of course, we got all the other great shows over on Yearly Media as well, while Albert tries to figure out the technical details, although I'm not saying anything. Of course, we got Film Appraisers with Josh and Joe. Joe's got his own whiskey podcast. It's fantastic. He's always doing live stuff on YouTube. Tons of great stuff out there right now. So invite everyone to come in and check out a show. We're all on Discord, and we got links to the website so you can check out all the episodes too. So yearlymedia.com or yearlymedia.com/Discord.
Thank you. That's a nice little plug there.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure. Now I can see the live feed coming through just fine. So I don't know what's going on there, but all right. Well, let's get into the show, because so this episode was
really not a lot. It's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there were some significant pieces to this, and there's definitely a lot to talk about, but it is a very, I'm going to say, simplistic episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, in terms of what was going on. Like, even our show notes, I was like, as I was going through them, they're not as lengthy as we normally do. I know we uncover everything, and we really get into the Drengar weeds, as I like to say. But there wasn't a whole lot here, although there is, right? So,
right.
So just kind of your, give me your overall, your overall thoughts on this episode. I told you last night, I was seeing chatter all day long, and I wasn't really able to confirm whether it was true or not. And then some pretty big, solid, reputable people started saying, "Get ready, you're about to get blown, out of the water with this episode coming out." And I texted Jonesy, I'm like, "Hey, rumor is we're going to get a pretty big reveal. I'm not sure who it is just yet, but it looks pretty legit." And I think it did. But what did you think about the episode?
Well, and then I got a 2:30 text message this morning with words from Albert I can't really repeat.
Yeah, I thought you were awake, so I just went ahead and texted you. So if I woke you up,
I intended to stay up, and I was like, I can't do it. So I fell asleep like at 1:30. Yeah. I tried. I'm old-ish. So yeah, this episode again, the Crosshair is back. I think we're ready for Crosshair to be back. We're ready to see this going on, and I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, what I like about this show in this moment too is the Bad Batch or Clone Force 99, whatever you want to call them, are in these positions where you really do feel like the odds are stacked against them, and that everybody is coming in from every side. And Crosshair's not messing around. You know, he doesn't bring just a small unit. He brings like 3 ships worth of people. Yeah, 3 shuttles worth of troops, including his quote unquote elite forces, right? And I think it's a really good where you actually feel like these guys have some amount of peril. And the way that it ended really kind of puts you in a position like, oh, did they really just go here? Right. And turns out they didn't, but they got pretty close. And I think it was just it was really good that we continue to get those. I think that was my biggest takeaway from this, is that we aren't going to, like, it's very real that someone could go in this series. You know,
like
someone's
go,
like bite the bullet, right? And become one with the Force and all that. But yeah, it might be a thing. I mean, it's really, they're flirting with it a little bit. It would be very powerful if they did. Now, we didn't really progress much of any of the direct stories as a result, I don't think, at least, but it's moving us to the next part of the season. This very, very much felt like a mid-season cliffhanger, which I think we speculated if we were going to get. We started to think maybe not, but we definitely got something akin to it, I think. But I'll kind of stop there because I don't want to give too much through the episode. We'll get through it. But what were your initial takes?
Yeah. Well, first off, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. This felt, even though we're getting our, every week, and we're not having to go into like a winter break or anything like that, this feels like Twilight of the Apprentice Part 2, right? Where it's at the very end of a season or a mid-season kind of finale type thing. And there certainly was enough punch at the very end of this episode to make it feel that way. So in that regard, I think it's awesome because, one, we got the emotional weight of the episode at the very end, and two, I don't have to wait 2-3 months before I have to see the next episode. Right. So that was great. I loved all that. And then I think the other thing that for me was we got an Emmy Award-winning Christian Taylor back writing this episode. So he wrote, what was it, Cornered in this season? And then I think we mentioned when we were doing that episode, he's the guy that did the Mortis trilogy. And he's done a number of other episodes, and he was a writer for Lost. And again, I think he's got several Emmys for writing alone. So the fact that we got the good writing here, and I've got some examples of it that were just, I mean, it was like an overall, I think this is like my favorite episode now. And I think it even surpasses the first one because it was similar to The Mandalorian. I forget which episode it was now. That sounds terrible, but I forget. Which there was an episode in there where we got about halfway through the season 2, and I thought, man, this is like the best episode because there really isn't anything to poke holes in. Solid writing, the visuals in this were phenomenal, the music was phenomenal. I mean, even when Cad Bane enters in, we got the spaghetti western music coming in. The writing was great. I mean, it was just a really great, solid episode from beginning to end. So I really enjoyed that, and the fact that we got Cad Bane back, who I was not expecting. I don't even know if he came up at all when we were speculating about who would pop up in this series. I wanted to go back and just ran out of time to do so.
I think maybe he did, but I don't know that we gave it a lot of credibility to it. But yeah, I mean, as soon as we had bounty hunters creeping in with Fennec Shan, all bets were off about what was going to go on. But I can't wait to talk about Cad Bane, actually.
Yeah. So and there's and then
thanks, Cherry. Thanks, Cherry, for the compliment.
The Vader statue. There's the other thing too was the only, and it's not even feedback. The only thing that, and this was something that didn't dawn on me when the episode came out. It literally was about, I don't know, an hour before we went on the air here. Was I was thinking, you know what, this still feels like we're kind of following that same formula of The Mandalorian. Yeah. Because here's the kid, and the kid's now been kidnapped, right? And now there's going to have to be a rescue, and so it just keeps following that. And it's not a bad thing. Like it's not enough for me as I'm watching the episode going, we've seen this before. I'm so engaged in the episode because of the writing, because of the action, because of the music and the visual effects and all of that, that it does kind of hide some of that. But I think if you pull that back, there are some similarities to what we've already seen in The Mandalorian, but you can also make the same argument that this is just a common trope that we see in lots of other. I think it's just because it's coming right off the heels of season 2 of The Mandalorian that it's still fresh in our mind. And so for me, it sticks out, but not a bad thing. I still enjoyed the episode overall.
Yeah, I think the one aspect that may be a little bit different than Mandalorian, because I agree that the general storylines are in the same path, right?
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that's a little bit different is with Grogu, we while we unveiled some powers along the way, really by the time we got to season 2, most of it was already, the Band-Aid was already off, right? There wasn't much that we were learning else. Whereas with Omega, we've still got a lot to figure out about why she's so important and what the Kaminoans have done, and why is she so important, and what is all that? Just all the questions that we have. So I think there's still that carrot to dangle that helps us keep coming back, and that there is something that we're going to get to at some point. And I don't think we're really going to have to wait that long for it. I think when we go back to Kamino, I think we're going to start to see that mystery start to unravel, very similar to what we had at the end of the Clone Wars with Fives and how all that was working with the inhibitor chips, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're going to start to see some of those parallels a little bit too, of peeling back the curtain a little bit on what's going on with Omega and why she's so important to Nala Se and Lamazu.
Yep. The only other comment that I had was I enjoy the whole kind of cat and mouse game that was happening here. You had Hunter, who was aware of the tactics of the clones, and so he was able to anticipate that. And then on the flip side of it, you had Crosshair, who was familiar with Hunter's tactics, and so he was able to kind of one him up on that. So I did enjoy that aspect of it, and I don't know that we'll talk about it too much, but it wasn't lost as we were kind of watching that and thinking, oh, they've all got each other figured out. So it's almost kind of like this Mexican standoff that really didn't happen. But let's start getting into the show. It starts with the clone facility. We're back on Kamino, which I was like, oh great. I mean, I was really hoping we'd get back here. And first we get to see Crosshair. This is the first episode that we've seen him now. In 3 episodes?
3,
or so?
Yeah. Right.
He's got a squad with him, and then he gets wind that there's been this power surge right on Braca. Yeah, and that's what kind of tipped him off. And this is where he kind of comes in and says that, hey, you're going to need more people than that. What he tells the what's his name, Rampart there. But yeah, so Nala Se he's petitioning to allow these assets not to be damaged and destroyed, and part of him he knows that Omega is with the Bad Batch, right? And so he doesn't want to jeopardize or put Omega at risk. I don't think he really cares so much about the Bad Batch. That's kind of how I got the impression of it. It's really about to protect her more than anything, and I think we know the value a little bit later where it kind of surfaces, and they've talked about it. I think we got a confirmation in here. But yeah, I mean, he's basically saying, look, you're going to need more. You're going to need a bigger boat. There's no way one little squad is going to go out and be able to take out the Bad Batch. And so he gathers, like you said, 3 fleets or 3 shuttles of people or troops to head out there.
Yeah. And the Kaminoans, I mean, they're business people when it comes down to it, right? I think they still have value at Clone Force 99. I think Lamazu is actually saying the truth. I think there's definitely double meaning there. I'm right on board with you there that they're protecting Omega, and clearly that's what they truly want, but they still have a lot of value. But we had a really strong argument between Rampart and Lamazu already, and basically Rampart's like, look, you're not going to tell us what to do. We're in control here. We'll make the decisions, and he's the one in charge, and on their planet and their facilities, and he's the one. Then they're trying to cut the clone army loose, and he's telling them that he's the one making all the calling all the shots, is just a bit surprising in that way. But then again, that's the Empire, I guess. That's where they're going. It's who they are, and it's what they want to be.
Yep.
So maybe it's not that surprising, but yeah, we also have this really curious look though from Nala Se. I wanted to get your thoughts on this one, where she just looks very solemn and very concerned, I guess, about presumably about Omega, because her and Lamazu were talking. They're going to have to move their plans up because Rampart's getting edgy and whatnot, and they're going to have to get her back. And of course, we find out that sounds like they're behind the first bounty hunter, right?
Yep,
so like we expected, no surprise there. We speculated that was most likely the case. So Fennec Shand sounds like she was hired by them, but we get this really, really sincere look from Nala Se, and really want to get your thoughts about what you thought was behind that look.
So I think if you look at it, there's kind of 2 looks. So Nala Se, sure, but Lamazu's look first. I think Lamazu is really all about business. They need Omega there because they need their 3rd phase or whatever it is, whatever their secession plan is. However, the Kaminoans are going to continue to survive in this galaxy. they're going to need her to make this new batch of clones that they're going to try to sell, right? So from him, it's purely a business proposition. It's a strategic move to get her back. For Nala Se, though, that is, it's yes, it's that, but I think it's also a motherly aspect. I think it is. I think she sincerely cares about her. She sincerely loves her. She sincerely wants to care about her. That's why she sent her off with the Bad Batch to begin with, to kind of allow that to, or let them get away, because she knew that that wasn't probably going to be a safe place for her with the Empire coming in, or she just didn't want to roll the dice and see how things went there. So I think she's got a very protective, kind of motherly, role in all of this. And so for her, the idea that that there's multiple bounty hunters after her, and there's, her life is at risk. It could very well happen. I mean, one wrong move and suddenly the whole ship goes down and she loses Omega. So I think that's probably where it's stemming from. It's probably stemming from a more emotional place. I mean, there's a business aspect to it for her as well, but not to the extent of Lamazu.
Right. And why that's so surprising is that if we think back again, the end of the Clone Wars, when they were investigating Fives and what was going on, she wanted to terminate the clone. I mean, she was very cold. I mean, very cold.
Yeah.
With what, they were property, they were things, they weren't people, they were things effectively. And they do whatever they want with them. And there was no heart for the most part. It didn't seem like there was any heart, because she was ready to carve them open. And so we get this side of her all of a sudden. I don't know how to feel. I'm conflicted, Howard, because I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of sweet and stuff. But I'm like, no, she was a total B word with the rest of the clones. And now she's got, one of her own. She's got her own little pet, effectively. And her whole attitude changes. Now I get people change when they have different circumstances and whatnot. We're seeing that with Hunter. We saw that with Jaren. So I guess people can do it, but man, it's such a shift for a Kaminoan in particular, because they are just very cold, calculated, very businesslike, and they really have one motivating driving force, and that's basically their pride, effectively.
Well, I wonder too, and not to write it off as this, but I keep coming back this whole season, really, so far, I keep going back to that very first episode where Saul Guerrero says, hey, you've either got to adapt, the whole world's changing, you either adapt or, I don't know, die trying, or whatever that quote was. But you see the Bad Batch going through it, right? Everybody's in kind of a state of disarray at this point. Everybody's trying to get their feet underneath them in terms of where they stand now with the Empire. And is something like the Empire coming into power and the Republic falling out enough to have like a sea-level change for somebody like the Kaminoans or somebody like Lamazu or Nala Se? I think so. I mean, and you're right. Your point's well taken. I mean, it feels like it's kind of a stark contrast to what we had before, but
right.
We'll never know. I doubt we'll get into the head of her, but it does seem she does come across much more amicable in this one. Like I tend to like her more than I ever did, and never thought
I have a lot more.
That.
I have a lot more empathy all of a sudden for her.
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you? And I mean, this isn't the Nala Se dissection, but maybe we need to do one. But so maybe one last question for her, and then we'll move on. Do you think that she has any ambition, like, to surpass Lamazu, or do you really think? No, not really. It's really just her own individual interests.
I think if she does, that's something that's more recently come out, and I don't know that there's anything that I get where you're coming from, because I can kind of see her, the way the looks, right? You could interpret those looks as something like she's got a master plan.
Well, and there seems to be some friction there too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that they're exactly on a page per page kind of same level type strategy here. And again, I think it probably just stems from the fact that he wants to get her back, poke her, take her blood, use her DNA, do really horrible things because she's, quote, a clone, and he doesn't have an emotional attachment to her, whereas she does, and that's why she didn't want her there. I mean, it could be the fact that the Empire is in there, but it could have been the fact that Lamazu wanted to do something to her, and she just wanted her to get out there and go live a life and be a being without being enslaved or being a clone or all those things, those horrible things. So,
right. And we'll pause right here. So Cherry has a great comment in the chat. Lamazu has a great ASMR voice. So Albert, I think in our Patreon poll for this week, we should put, who has the better ASMR voice? Is it Lamazu or is it Cad Bane?
Jonesy.
No,
that's fine.
But both of them are so cool. I mean, they are both so unique. They're great.
Yeah.
Who does? I don't even know who does their voices. I'm terrible at this.
Yeah, I don't know. But all right, let's go. Cause we got
yeah.
You got the beginning.
So Crosshair's out and about. He's gonna go.
He's out there.
Go get him. Yep.
So we get to this one, and here,
Michael.
There's nothing like having a child play with live ordnance. Wrecker is like the uncle all parents roll their eyes at, and that's exactly what I was thinking too. It's like, the uncle takes the kid out in the back. Next thing you know, they've got fireworks, and they've got gasoline. They're doing some kind of experiment. This is going to be cool. And the same thing here. I mean, Wrecker is teaching her how to dismantle bombs, and I mean, it seems like it's kind of. I mean, she's already firing bows and everything else. So I mean, at this point, what's next, right? I mean, I think everything's fair game and on the table at this point for her. But I did like the fact that he kind of did what was done to him by using a smoke bomb and really getting her worried that this thing was really going to go off, and just kind of, that is a very kind of like uncle, big brother kind of thing to do, right? Torture the person emotionally and then laugh it off and go, hey, now that you've had it, guess what? That's what happened to me. And look at me. I turned out to be cool and all that. So
right.
I did enjoy this. The only thing that I had, I mean, it was a good moment to see her training continuing. And it's very reminiscent of like a Kanan and Ezra, right? In between battles and stuff, they were out there practicing and doing things. And so that seems to be familiar to me. But I do wonder, even with the stuff that was happening with like Kanan and Ezra and other examples in Clone Wars, I'm wondering if this is going to come out at some point where she is going to have to dismantle a bomb, or it was just foreshadowing in some way. And if it doesn't happen, that's fine. But it just feels like with Dave Filoni, you never know what's going to resurface later as being, see, that's why I did that kind of thing. But what do you think?
Yeah. And I think, again, they're training her to be a soldier. I mean, that's because that's what they know how to do. That's the one thing they can pass on to her is, how to survive and how to take care of yourself and defend yourself and, just take care of your squad. I mean, these are all skills that they needed to have. They if they're going to mix in with the team, or she's going to mix in with the team, then she really has to be able to take care of the team like they take care of one another. Mm-hmm. And I think we saw that with Wrecker. He's clearly already got her involved with it, but we see it with Tech later on too. He asks her to come up and help and gives her a job to do. And I thought that was really cool that Tech is now kind of warming up to her in a certain way. And we weren't really sure how that was going to work out. But it was, Twan, oh my God, read this for our audio listeners out there.
I'm glad they didn't have her crawl into a tight space and dismantle it while making baby noises.
Clearly making a reference to Grogu on the
Mandalorian. I would have been there too. Yeah, right. And we'll get to the Tech part, because as when that moment happened, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. We're finally going to get some meaningful conversation. They're really going to connect. And no, we got Sheldon again. We got Sheldon say, the really awkward, stereotypical geeky guy that can't hold a conversation and just is very literal and all of that, which, was
still great though.
It was still great. I mean, you wouldn't have expected anything else at that point. So, okay. So at this point, this is where the Scrappers have taken notice, and they realize both Wrecker and Echo, who Echo kind of just drops in and is like, hey, how's it going? And at that point, they realize they're being watched. And there's a really quick moment here, which I don't, at this point, they've already been kind of called out, and then Crosshair's on his way. I thought there would be something, and this is not feedback, but I was expecting something to happen with this. And did I miss it? I know we're only like less than 24 hours since the episode came out. But I couldn't, there was no, there was a chase. Maybe it was just a way to kind of break up what was going on. But I thought for sure, because they used stun, right? They had the blaster set on stun, that somehow they were going to, and maybe this is going to pay off in the next episode, but what happened to these guys? What happened to the Scrappers that they captured?
They left them right outside the door, and they went there, we'll be long gone before they wake up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm with you. I thought they were going to question them or get information from them, but clearly they thought that there was no other issue to handle. They didn't think the Scrapper Guild would have any kind of contact with the Empire. So they were still very much in the dark. But you're right. I thought I expected more from that. Of, what else did they know, or who did they talk to? Because all of a sudden, Hunter's really not. I mean, Echo came down there with the premise of, hey, Hunter wants us to start packing up. But
yeah, we got to go.
Well, really, Hunter wasn't in any kind of rush, because he was like, no, we're going to go clear out the ordnance. And then Tech is telling him that the Tech is more valuable than all the ordnance. you know, and so we get some interesting conversation there and some, not arguing, I guess, but just different philosophies of how to survive in this world.
Yep.
And the realities of not having money and needing money and being in debt to people, you know, and Echo's like, I don't want to be an arms dealer.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, fair point, man.
Yeah, no, we all don't. Yeah, that's coming up here in just a second. Before we get to that, I do want to mention there was some good writing here, and I called it, that piece I called out was the when they got on the radio. I forget who it was, but somebody says Wrecker's got everything under control, and then Tech responds back, "That's not comforting."
Right, that's not comforting at all.
Yeah, there's moments in there like that where I thought Christian.
I'm telling you, I think Tech gets the best lines in the show.
Yeah, he really does. Well,
and the delivery that D. Bradley Baker has for it is just, it's amazing and perfect.
Deadpan comedy type stuff. Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yep. All right, we get to, and this is the moment you were talking about. So this is kind of back at the fallen cruiser. This is right before nighttime. And Echo is like, he's got a good point. He's like, hey, we wouldn't be out here scavenging materials and in debt to somebody that's, you know, sending us on missions that may not be, you know, on the up and up at times, maybe a little shady, outside of our comfort zone. Had we just gone with Echo, or have we just gone with Rex? Like, we could have just left and been with Rex and done that and been soldiers, right? That's what his whole point is. We're soldiers. We're not arms smugglers, and that's what Rex is doing. Rex is out there being a soldier, and yet we're still here. We still got this child. We're still doing these off missions, trying to make it away. And here's a path. Here's a clear path to get back into what we do. And there's a cause, and we can do all that. So he's not wrong at all. But I do, and he's got a point, because they were sitting there literally being the Rays of this episode, right? Or the Rays Skywalkers here, pulling in junk and selling it for portions or whatever they're doing with this stuff, right? And they're going back to their pusher there being Sid herself. But yeah, what did you think about that? I mean, it was kind of a sobering moment, I think, for some, but I don't know that Hunter really cared that much, because he seems to be primarily focused on taking care of Omega, and he kind of likes his father figure role.
Yeah, and I liked it that we finally got something we talked about last week, where we didn't think there was enough interaction or that emotional connection with between Echo and Rex was there, right? And this time we actually get a little bit of that little wistfulness from Echo, wanting to be with Rex and knowing that's probably where they belong. They are soldiers. And I thought the response from Hunter was really good, though. You know, he's basically, it's one of those, you know, I forgot what the actual quote was. You know, his something, you know, goes down a different path or something like that. So it's, you know, he has his own path to walk, basically. And it was just very different and the way that Hunter said it, though, was just very, I don't know, solemn. It was a very solemn type of response. It wasn't any kind of excuse or anything like that. It was just very serious and sincere. Yeah. And Echo, to his credit, you know, and I think you would put it in the notes, you know, Echo's dropping truth bombs all throughout this episode, which is 100% true.
Well, through the whole season so far, he seems to be like the voice of reason, but.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, you're absolutely right. And, but to his credit, he backed off on this one, because I think Echo understands. And I think when he stops and thinks about it, he does get it. And they're not going to leave the squad. I mean, they're in this together.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, they're in this position now. They've got to go and do these weird things that they never thought they would have to do in order just to scrounge up money to get around, you know, and you do what you got to do.
Well, and who is it? Crosshair has the best line when later on when he tells them pathetic, and he calls them out for what they are. He says, living like rats out here. And it's kind of what they're doing. They're living like rats and trying to make way. I mean, again, it goes back to that line of, hey, you just got to adapt, and the world's changing, the universe, the galaxy's changing, that sort of thing. But is this really the best path for them? And I wonder, not to fast forward too much here, but I just wonder what the outcome of all of this is going to be. Is it going to change? Is this kind of the watershed moment for Hunter to realize that, hey, maybe what we're doing isn't really working? I was trying to make it work. It didn't. I mean, we've still got some episodes for all of this to kind of play out. And maybe that does lead us into a different approach when we get to season 2, but this is pretty significant, right? I mean, this is the first time he's been shot. He's lost Omega now. Crosshair is still out there. He's got multiple bounty hunters after him. He's in debt with Sid. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's really going very well, like he would like it to. So maybe this is a wake up moment for him, but we'll find out eventually here.
Yeah. I mean, and especially we probably going back to Camino at some point. But yeah, it's
or are we? I've got a different take on that. I've got a different take on that. But
sorry, banged everything.
No, yeah, wow, mic drop.
Getting excited in here, man.
Okay, so at this point, we're back inside the cruiser, and this is where Tech restores the power. And of course, he has another great Tech line: "Power's back on." After all the powers come back, and everybody sees it, he just feels it's necessary to declare that the power is back on. And this is where Omega finds the mines, which become handy a little bit later, and Wrecker finds a proton torpedo, which becomes handy a little bit later. Yeah, I mean, he using that as he's hugging it, and
he gave it a smooch too.
He did.
Very affectionate.
What a weirdo.
Only took one though.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So this is where we get the whole line about, hey, what if we just left with Rex? We wouldn't owe anything to Sid. And he says, Hunter, we're soldiers. What other path is there? It's true. Well, to some extent, I don't know. I think in Echo's mind, and maybe this is just the final word on this, but in Echo's mind, they've been bred to do one thing, and he may not be okay with change. I mean, God knows he's been through so much change already, right? And a lot of it has not been on his own accord. So for him, getting back and staying in that routine, maybe it's this. To some extent, it's almost like PTSD, right? When somebody, you hear about stories, people coming out of the military, they're so used to things being a certain way that it's really hard for them to adjust. And some don't, right? Some take a long time to adjust. Some need help to adjust. But getting back to that civilian life and not knowing, sometimes people don't know what their purpose is, and they don't feel like they have a purpose anymore because they're not serving a republic, or they're not serving the clone army, right? And so for him, maybe this is just not comfortable because this is not what he was bred to do. And so in his mind, hey, we're soldiers. We should be doing soldier things and nothing more. That was the path of Rex. And for Hunter, I think he's probably got a different approach. He's thinking, no, I'll take care of Omega, and I'll take care of you guys as a family. And our life is going to be running around and not knowing what's ahead of us in the next, from day to day. And for him, that's probably unsettling, right? The fact that for Echo anyways. And that's why he's thinking, hey, we're soldiers. This is what we were bred to do. This is what we should be doing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help that they all stick out like a sore thumb. There's no civilian life for any of these guys. I mean, Echo can't really have a civilian life. Even Hunter's got a big skull tattooed on his face. Wrecker, God, that guy's just a mess all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Tech doesn't, Tech sticks out. Crosshair's antisocial, and Omega's about the only normalish one out of the group. So, but they don't blend back in with society. So it's not really reasonable to expect that there's a normal life to have.
Yep. Oh, okay. So at this point, this is where we get the Omega and Tech moment. So Tech's underneath there. He's trying to save some data off of the ship, which I wonder if that's going to play out a little bit later too. Like, I just wonder how much. It could be just a throwaway thing where they got the intel that they needed, but beyond that, there's nothing more. But if there is, there could be something more that they could use. Who knows what he was able to to get out of there. But really, the key takeaway here is two things. One, we finally got a moment between Omega and Tech that didn't really go the way we hoped it would, but probably went the way we thought it would, with Tech trying to explain what the what the war was like. It was a primary mission objective comprised of battles on various fronts. Thank you, Webster. We appreciate that.
Right.
And then the second thing, what this scene does is just establish it. Wow, there's the Empire's here, and they've come in full force. 3 shuttles worth of folks. But
yeah, they're not messing around.
We flip back over just quickly to Dallasay and Lamazu, and I'm just going to read this one because it is significant. He says, we can no longer delay. The Empire mission on Bronco poses a threat to our contingency plan. I will have to call upon further assistance. And this is kind of setting us up for, hey, he's going to reach out to yet another bounty hunter or multiple bounty hunters, which we don't know, which I don't want to speculate too much on that because I want to save that for the Patreon episode. I've got some crazy theories there as far as where that's going. But it definitely, he feels like, hey, this is a risk. And because their true asset, which is Omega, is at risk. And so it's just a numbers game at this point. They need to get more people out there looking, searching, trying to get her back in hopes that someone will bring her in so that they can kind of kick off phase 3. And then she says, is that wise? We already have someone handling matters. And so I think that was our hard ish confirmation that it was Fennec Shand that they had picked, since that's the only person at this point that we know that has, been in search of her.
Right.
And then the last thing he says, as long as one of these bounty hunters delivers the young clone intact, that is all that should concern us. And this is where I think you were picking up on, hey, she doesn't, she has this look like, no, it's more than that. Right. And I think that's where that personal aspect comes in.
Yeah. And I think, I'm starting to wonder if Fennec Shand's coming back. I mean, they certainly suggested it, but now that they had the kid and Cad Bane did it, do you need Fennec Shand to come back? So I think she probably will. But a little bit curious how that one worked out. But it makes sense. I mean, they're desperate. They're going to throw as many rocks against the wall and pieces of gum against the wall and find something that sticks. And I give them credit, man. They went and found themselves a good one. That was not expected of who they were going to hire. But
arguably the best one right now. Like, I'm trying to think who would even be tops.
Yeah. I mean, so it was really curious that they go from Fennec Shand, who's a relative unknown or still on the up and coming list, right? Even though she's proving herself. And then they're like, okay, well, we tried that. Let's just go with, probably one of the best bounty hunters ever, that we're aware of at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Riss Bayless, by the way, with us tonight for the first time. There's quite a few people on here for the first time, so thank you guys for joining.
Yeah, this is cool.
He mentioned Echo is classically trained as a red clone. I'm sure the thought processes are very different in regards to kids and extra people. 100%. That is not what they do, right? I mean, that is they're trained as regs to go out and serve missions and fight clankers and different types of droids, and that's it. They don't have good parenting skills and some of this other stuff. So that's point well taken there.
So just a moment of speculation. I know we're running a bit long already, but with Nala Se, we're kind of back to the Nala Se section. Do you think she's going to do something that is going to intercept Omega and stray from Nala or from Lamazu's plan? Do you think that she would disobey in that way and potentially even help Clone Force 99?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And in fact, I have a theory of as far as where that's going.
Of course,
it ties into Cad Bane though.
Oh.
So hold that thought. We get to, maybe we'll touch on it a little bit. We'll definitely touch on the Patreon episode, but I'll touch on it here when we get to that piece.
Looking forward to it
at the very end. Don't get too excited. It's not like,
What? I'll get as excited as I want to.
All right. You can't control you. I know. I can't control you. Okay. So we're back on Bronco aboard the Fallen Cruiser, and this is where we get the cat and mouse game. Tech is jamming them. Hunter's aware. You've got his elite force going, oh, we're not picking up a signal, and he's like, no, you idiot, that's because they're jamming us.
Right.
And then very strategically, he tells another patrol, go find their ship. If they're in this, someone likely is not back at the ship, so go find that. And the whole objective there, although it wasn't explicitly stated, they were supposed to find the ship, but then kind of stay there, hold the perimeter, make sure that they can't get back into the ship, keep them from getting aboard that again.
Right.
And then we kind of have this whole, and I called it sneaking around, right? This is the Han Solo thing, because it was very similar to what we saw in, Force Awakens, where they're kind of sneaking around in there, Episode 4. I mean, there's just countless examples in Star Wars where it's hey, we're hiding in the shadows, and now they walk right by us and all that. That's all very familiar stuff. Right. Someone pointed out that, and I forget where I saw this, was on Reddit or something, but someone had pointed out that these clones are already displaying behaviors of the Empire, and that they're not really searching like they would normally. You know what I mean? Like they're not, the clones were very, what's the word I'm looking for?
More intelligent.
Well, more intelligent. Yeah, certainly had more free will. Whereas these guys are very by the book, right? They've got an order, go here, go look for them exactly there, and don't look left, don't look right, don't look down dark hallways. Just go do what you're supposed to do. And this is what probably allowed them to kind of sneak around. But I don't know if that's really what they were going for. I think they were it was the element of suspense.
Right. Yeah. What I liked about the sequence, though, especially when we had the standoff type of moments, is that we're having to, the Clone Force 99 is really having to take some extreme measures to get out of these situations, which I thought was really cool to see, because again, you're like, how are they going to do anything with this when they get trapped on the the artillery level, and then again you were saying they were playing some cat and mouse, not to skip over anything, but they tap into the regs comms, and Crosshair basically set them up to do it because they're very predictable, right? And Crosshair is basically taunting Hunter at this point as well. But so they get stuck on the artillery deck, and the only way off of this thing, and Crosshair knows, like, there's nowhere to go. I mean, you can jump, and that's probably not the way to go. But the only way to do is to get the gun to fire, and then the structure is so weak that the whole thing is just going to come plummeting down. And man, heck if they didn't do it, because again, desperate times. But it was still just incredible. I mean, the extremes that they're having to go to in order to get out of just a typical situation or a single situation. And then, man, the beating these people are taking is just incredible. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more. Crosshair took a pretty good pounding too, but man, I mean, these guys were just getting beat up all throughout this episode.
Yeah, in my head, it's very, this is very tactical on Crosshair's part. Right, he's funneling them into these choke points, and he mentions choke points a little bit later. But he's already, I mean, he knows, if anybody knows a ship like that, right, it's going to be him, a Venator class ship. It's going to be somebody like Crosshair. He's been in those his whole life, literally, and he knows where the choke points are. He knows where to kind of funnel them in, and getting them up to the top there, where that artillery piece is a kind of no-end situation with really only 2 exits. And as long as he plugs those holes, there's nowhere for them to go. What he's not expecting is this to be in such disrepair that firing the cannons would suddenly kind of bring everything crashing down, cause all this commotion, a diversion to allow everybody to get away. And that's kind of what works for them. So all of that was honestly really good stuff. I enjoyed it. But the really good piece was just that first confrontation. Like, this was the first confrontation that we've had between Hunter and Crosshair. And that's when he said, "Look at you all salvaging like rats. How pathetic." And Hunter says, "Why are you coming after us?" Right? And he says, "You're traitors." And for all that's going on, Crosshair is still very much following orders. Like, it's hard for me to see him as an evil character. I don't know that he's evil, because he turns around even right after that. What is it when he says, when Omega's kind of pleading to him? She's like, "Remember what we talked about in the brig? It's not your fault," right? She's kind of trying to appeal to his inner self, if you will. Right. And it doesn't work. Like, or maybe it does. I don't know. I think if there's a possibility that it could work a little bit later if some things happen the way I think they might have happened. But for the most part, he's not fazed by that. And in fact, he's like, kill the kid, like, get rid of her. Right? He's all about the mission. And I don't think it's not that he's evil. It's just that he's following orders. He's got this chip in him. And yes, he's getting frustrated and things aren't going his way, and they're eluding him and all of that. But at the same time, he's just trying to fulfill the mission as best he can, so he can get back and kind of he's got something to prove too.
Yeah. Do you think there's so with Wrecker, we got the confirmation that there's definitely conflict within the mind of not wanting to do it. Do you think Crosshair is still experiencing that, or has he just been roasted in the med bay so many times that that's all just burned out of him at this point?
Well, okay, so while we're bringing this up, I think for the most part, up until this episode, I want to say he's going in there, he's getting brainwashed, brain wired. What was the word that Katie?
Brain changed, I think is what Katie used.
Right. Yeah. Brain changed. That's probably happening. And I'm wondering now, after taking the hit that he had from the blast, if something changed there. And if that didn't change, then I have another theory about what his worth is at this point. Because if you look at him, and again, I'm sorry, we're jumping ahead, but I think it's worth it.
He's in rough shape.
He's in rough shape. And if you look at his eyes, like if you pause it, his eyes are like red. Like the actual eyes themselves are red, not just around the eyes, right? And I started wondering, okay, well, wait a minute. He's at the point where he's got like a broken leg. I think his arm's in a sling. He's got a respirator on. So I don't know that he's going to pull out of this and be 100%. And if his eyesight is gone, then what good is a sharpshooter? What good is he going to be? And I think that, coupled with maybe the damage, maybe when he gets back, Rampart's like, "You're completely useless to me now," wants to get rid of him. Maybe that's enough to kind of really start shifting the tide and allow him to kind of churn on his own. Or maybe because of the blast he took, now something happened to the inhibitor chip, and that's going to allow him to kind of have a way out or a kind of churn. Wouldn't it be cool, though, to have a Crosshair who is conscious of the fact that he is in the Empire, but now, for whatever reason, loyal to the Bad Batch and is kind of working as an insider and kind of corrupt, attacking them from within, or playing this long game of doing what he needs to do until the moment's right to really shut down the Empire or get away from them and then rejoin the Bad Batch. And that's kind of where I would like to. I think it's a really cool and intriguing theory. I don't know that there's not a whole lot there outside of my own headcanon in terms of whether that's going to happen.
Well, I think it's interesting if the Empire turns their back on him, it'll be very interesting. What do you do if you've got? I mean, they've cooked him really good. So have they cooked him beyond repair? I don't know. Tuan seems to believe so. But
he's cooked.
But if they turn their back on him and he's still supposed to be 100% loyal to the Empire, what does that do to a clone? If the one thing you're bred to do and the thing that you are now being forced to do and being brain changed into doing, and then they say, no, you're no longer. I think he still has strategic importance, to be clear. I think there's still value in Crosshair, right. But you're right. The Empire is pretty short-sighted and they don't really look into a whole lot. They just say, what's right in front of me? What are you going to do for me right now? And that's it. And they don't suffer fools and they don't suffer people that are useless or they perceive as useless. I mean, hell, they want to get rid of the whole Clone War or the whole clone army, and that makes no sense either, right?
Yeah.
But so I think it's one of those things of what's that conflict look like, I think, and that's kind of where you're going with it is, and then is he able to somehow change? Has something happened enough to get him over that hump? Or, just what is that? And so I'm with you. I think if he's damaged enough and he gets they turn their back on him, what is it that he's going to do? And I think that is a bit of an interesting story. And we believe they will all be on Camino here pretty soon, right? So it's all the pieces will maybe. Well, it seems like it based on where the story is going at the very least, but unless they don't take Omega there, I guess, which would make sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking is they don't. But again, that ties back to the Cad Bane thing. So yes, 100% agree on all that. The other side is do they keep him around? Why would they keep him around? I think what you called out is probably the most important thing. What does he bring to the table? Well, he's still got a wealth of tactical knowledge that the Empire could harness. And does it change anything from what is the operation that they're in right now?
War Mantle, yeah.
Like, does War Mantle really change? Can you still have somebody in a leadership role, tactical role, maybe not out in the front lines, but still telling people, hey, go secure the ship and go do this and go do that? They could probably keep him around for that. And the Empire has, they had literally had Anakin smoking and well done, like literally charcoaled, well done, flame broiled 3 times over.
That's not apples to apples, though.
Well, I know. Well, and it's not because he's a Jedi and he's got the Force, and that was Palpatine, and he had a vision and all that. But they have ways that they can throw him on a respirator and give him artificial limbs, and he becomes like a more machine than man kind of thing, which that would be interesting too, if that's where they're going to go with all this. But so yeah, I think there's a reason that they still would keep him around. But I like the fact that there'd be more conflict if they didn't, and he's now feels, and maybe he doesn't fall allegiance to either one of the sides. Maybe he's just kind of his own thing, where hey, he's the Darth Maul of things. I don't like the Empire because they backstab me, and I don't like they call
them the Bad Batch because they're traitors.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking Maul, like Jedi cut me in half, so I don't really like those guys either.
Yeah.
All right, so he's kind of on his own thing, but yeah. So we'll see. I think that's a really interesting piece that I wasn't expecting, honestly, and I just don't know which way it's going to go. I think it can kind of go a lot of different ways with that.
Can we talk about that whole that sequence? Are we ready to talk about the engine sequence?
Yeah, there was a quick moment where the Wrecker starts chucking clones or whatever outside the artillery bays. Yeah. There was the flamethrower thing where he kind of threw the proton torpedo at his face and screamed direct hit. That was all the girl stuff.
It was the girl, yeah, and she came back. Like she came back through the door. She was a little, limpy, but she came back. I was like, how the hell does anybody get hit with a proton torpedo? I mean, like smack right in the frontal chest area, right? And I don't think she got hit in the face, but from Wrecker, and he threw that thing hard.
Yep.
And those things are not light, so she's tough.
You know who didn't survive a proton torpedo?
Who?
The Death Star.
Well, EC-02 did, so.
Yep.
I think she's EC-02.
A precise hit, and only a precise hit. Okay. All right, so let's get into the ion engine chamber, because this was a very tense, and this is from this point on. I mean, the whole episode just kind of hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, I was not sure. I I was beside myself at the orders.
Actually. Yeah, I mean, the minute they go in there, and I get it, they don't really have another choice. And I still think it was a choke point. I think he was okay. Contingency is if they get out of here, let's force them into the ion cannon area, and we'll set up shop right outside so that they have no choice. Either they're going to get burned alive, or they're going to come out and they're fish in a barrel at that point, right? He's just going to pop them off where he was.
Well, as soon as Crosshair told one of the clones or whatever to go to the bridge, or maybe it was one of the elite force, I was like, no way. Like, he's not going to do this. Because I was like, this is just not going to go well. And he actually went there. I could not believe it. I do like, there's another cool tech moment here. Sorry to interrupt, but where he starts talking about this really is a technical marvel, basically, of engineering. And what I actually wanted to hear it. It sounded like it was really cool.
Oh, get out of here.
I did. I'm not even messing around with you, man.
You got an engineer mind.
And of course, Wrecker's like, shut up.
Which, he's like, no, he says, no one cares. No one cares. Keep moving.
I did.
Yeah.
I care.
I care. There you go. There you go. Well, and there was the moment before that where and this is all writing again, just credit to the writing, but there was where he says, there's an alternate ingress off the cruiser, and Wrecker says, I don't even know what that means. Like, I mean, it's just good moments here of writing that are genuine and funny for us anyways. But so where are we? Oh yeah. So they're making their way through that. And then they hear the engines fire up, and graphically, so the visuals here with that engine, I mean, that's really cool. The way that little, I don't know, it's like a pilot fire comes out, this little stream comes out, and then it swirls around. You kind of see some hazy or some little speckles of something going on, and then the engines fire. I mean, all that's just eye candy for anybody that enjoys that stuff. But yeah, when those turned on, that was kind of like it was very reminiscent for me of when Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, and Han are down in the trash compactor, and then you get the whole, it could be worse, or it's worse, or just got worse. Right. Now it's worse. Yeah. That's what it reminded me of, because they heard it, they knew what it was, and Tech, of course, is very nonchalant. It's like, oh yeah, that's the engines firing up, and how long do we have? Less than 2 minutes, right? And so they've got to figure out at that point what they're going to do. And Wrecker throws out this idea of, why don't we just do Plan 7, which was a cool moment, because we'll never know what Plan 7 is, or maybe we do. Maybe that's be a running gag where he keeps bringing it up, and then finally in the season finale they execute Plan 7, and it's like, or was Plan 7 the one from the training thing in the back? And I gotta go look that back up.
I don't remember. I can't remember. Yeah, but Echo's response was great. What does that have to do with this?
Yeah. But yeah, so Tech comes up with a plan of, hey, let's put these charges all around the cone itself, and if we can detach the cone, at least that'll free us, because he probably knows structurally those are weak points there for some reason. And Omega, I think it was Omega or someone was like, well, aren't we gonna fall if that happens? And yeah, it's like, okay, exactly. What are your options? Either you get burned alive here, we go out there and get shot, or we roll the dice and take our chances in falling down and hoping for the best. So
yeah, he laid it out real clear. You get incinerated.
Yeah. Yep. The alternative is being incinerated. Yep. And so yeah, again, more on the visuals here, the explosions, the charges going off. They kind of cut away real quick, and you kind of see that. That's all. There was what's that technique they were doing when it was like one of the last season of Clone Wars, they were using real explosions and they had found a way to merge that into this. And so what you see is this kind of like half computer graphics, half real explosions, and that's why those things look so bright and they really pop. But you definitely could see that as we're going off. And then the cone separating, the visuals there, the physics that were involved. Oh yeah, the sound, all of that. And was really cool too was that the fact that Crosshair was not expecting that. And so where he had positioned himself was below. Like if you look before they blow that up, he's actually standing underneath. So he's kind of shot up ahead. But if the engines had fired off with the cone, it would have fired above him and not on him. But now that the cone dropped, those engines are going to fire off, and they're not going to be funneled in any way, right? So I'm just getting all excited here. They're not going to be
we're
funneled.
Both doing it.
No.
Well, and he stepped up too. He stepped in it because he was surprised by the tactic too. He did not expect this to happen. He came up into the area of, and you're right. Then it fell, and then it was right on him. And he couldn't get out of it. Yep. Everybody was blown back.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, Dale just cleared it up. Thank you, Dale. He said, no, not the training facility. That was what we did on Felucia. That's what they had called out.
Oh, there you go.
First episode.
Yeah, all these inside jokes, man. Don't they know that's rude?
Yeah. I think we'll see Plan 7, though. I hope we do. Otherwise, it's just a throwaway line, and I'm okay with that, too. But I love when that stuff resurfaces like that. Yeah, and then we get to, so that's when he takes the brunt of the blast, and you can hear him visually in pain. You see his face turning red. He's got one of the worst sunburns ever. And that's where I think I had these questions about whether or not are we going to see a different Crosshair because of this? Physically, is it because now the chip has been fried? He just took a full blast. Did it have some kind of effect on the chip, and is that going to malfunction? I just don't know. And there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and he was still, sorry to interrupt, man. I'm really bad at that tonight.
No, you're good.
Well, and then, but he still, when he hears them and then that they're coming back to the ship, what was it? I forgot what they had a report over the radios and the comms. He's like, get me up and get me to a shuttle, though.
Right.
And so it's unclear exactly what his state is. He seems like he is still, bad Crosshair. But you're right. We don't really know what the lasting effects of this might be, or if he's maybe not in a position now or able to physically tolerate any kind of additional treatments, right? To enhance the power of the chip. So maybe that's another realm, like you were saying earlier. Maybe that's another realm where the effectiveness of it starts to fade just a little bit more, coupled with all of the other stress and damage he's taken.
Right. I think it could be the first domino, right, to fall, or the first crack in that whole.
Yeah. I mean, kind of in reverse of what Wrecker went through, right?
Right.
I mean, he kept banging his head on things. Of course, he banged his head again on this one too. But yeah, just in reverse. That's what helped activate his chip, although he was probably going that way anyway at some point.
Yeah.
But certainly didn't help.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for the show.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Nothing else happened.
I'm kidding. We're going to talk about this.
Yeah. So they get split up, right?
And when they get split up, which is very convenient because that allowed, Hunter and Omega to head out to the ship, and they get there. And I honestly didn't know where this was going because it was a very weird shot, especially when they're like, what happened? When he says, what happened to CT 8508? And they start calling for him. And when they had shown the camera angle at the ground and it did that spiral pan back thing, I thought, oh boy, what is going on here? Like, this is not, like, we're going off the script in terms of where I was expecting this to go. And as they did that, and then they came up on those troopers, and he says something about this wasn't the scrapper's handiwork. Right. And I heard wasn't much work.
Right.
Like, that voice is just so unmistakable, unique. And I thought, what? No way. And then that whole scene I love what he did, right? I mean, for the dramatic effect, they started his boots and kind of panned up, and he's in shadow for the most part. His hat's down. The music starts. Yeah. I mean, get out of here. I mean, that was just like, and I wonder, like, there are a lot of people.
Clint Eastwood, you got it in spades, man.
It was the big bad, or the good, the bad, the ugly.
Exactly.
But that moment was so, like, iconic now for me in Star Wars, just in general across the board, because it's a character that we haven't seen in a very long time. I mean, I want to say since season 4 or
5. I think 5 was the bounty hunter season, but I think some other things may have happened after that. But
well, I don't think in Clone Wars though.
In real people years, it's been years since we've seen Cad Bane.
Absolutely, it's been years, and the fact that we got him back. And there's been a lot of talk about it today. There'll be a lot of talk about it this weekend, probably early next week. But I just wonder how many folks, because there are a lot of people, like we've talked about, there are a lot of people that are watching I know 2 personally, that are watching the Bad Batch right now, loving the Bad Batch. And the only thing they've seen really outside of the movies is the Mandalorian. They've not seen the Clone Wars.
Right.
And so this is their first introduction to somebody like a Cad Bane. That introduction means a whole lot more to us than to them. And I haven't really even had a chance, but I do want to reach out. And if anybody has had this kind of a conversation so far, I'd like to know how people took Cad Bane. What did they think when they saw a character like Cad Bane? Because he certainly has the presence to be, a Billy Badass, right? He looks it, he acts it. He's got the toothpick in his mouth. I mean, there's no mistake about this is a formidable character in some way, but there's just something a little bit extra and a little bit more rich about the fact that if you know the history and what came before and how did he get here? This is what we're going to get into in the Patreon episode. How did he get here, and where is he going? And what kind of role does he play in the Bad Batch or any of the other series now? Like, this is kind of a can of worms to some extent of where this can go. But I guess you give me your overall kind of thoughts and feelings when that moment happened? Because I know I literally texted you after I'd seen it. Like I paused it, texted, and went right back to showing, watching it. But what was I know you responded back.
Yeah.
With
this
something.
morning. Yeah. Like 6 this morning. Yeah. I was not expecting it. Of all the people I thought would come back. Now, when they started talking about bounty hunters, I was like, okay, a lot of people come on the tape, but we left Cad Bane in a very different place, right? He was locked up.
Yes.
And yeah, so we didn't know really what became of him. And so it was interesting that we finally saw him pop up. And I don't know that we're going to get any real backstory or not, but it was cool to see him there. But I was curious when you were talking about what do people who haven't seen the Clone Wars think. I'm always interested in that too, because some people view this as a bit campy, right? It's a little over the top. It's a little drawn out. And I think the standoff sequence or the gun smoke type of thing, and where they're just, going to quick draw.
Yeah.
What was it called? A showdown.
Showdown.
Yeah. Showdown was a bit drawn out a little bit. Although I did like how Cad Bane was so casual about everything, but I think I was wondering if people like that or not, or if it's just too much, or it's just, but for me, I hear I'm like you, man, when I hear the music and the imagery and his drawl, and he sounds like a Southerner of sorts, right? Yep. You just, all of these images pop up of Westerns and it just makes me smile. It's so much fun to do. And, I'm thinking we probably need a second Patreon poll this week. So we have an ASMR poll. Now we have the second one of who wields the toothpick better? Is it Crosshair or is it Cad Bane?
I don't know.
Cad Bane might be sweeping all the polls this weekend.
He might be. Yeah.
So we're going to have you guys 2 polls on Patreon, patreon.com/thecantinacast. You don't want to miss it.
I'll post that tonight on who wore it better. I was going to do it
I
earlier.
want both of them, man. I want both of them.
Yeah.
We're setting that bar real high this week.
Yes, we are.
We're going to get a flood of new people. It's going to be great. But I'm glad that Cad Bane's back. He's such a cool character. The voice is amazing, just like Lamazu's voice. Just a really cool voice acting. And he's just such a badass. And his demeanor. So if I had a nitpick on this episode, it's Hunter sees all the bodies and he's like, Omega, get behind me. And he's going to sneak in, but he sneaks right in the middle of the room, like literally is 10 feet away from every wall around him. So rather than going around in the shadows, he just goes straight down the middle. Literally probably could have looked up and seen Cad Bane right there, Yeah. But that's the only real nitpick I have. But man, the way that I think you had quoted it earlier, Hunter, once you learn one clone, you basically take them all out. And you don't have any problems anymore.
Yeah, I've taken down so many clones over the years. Once you figure one out, the rest are easy.
Right. And then what was Hunter's response?
He says, you're in for a surprise. And then he comes back with probably the best line and the way it's delivered and the way they presented that visually, where he says, I doubt that. I mean, I mean, trust me, man. Like when he showed up, and I've got this in the show notes, and I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit. When he showed up, I was like, he's done. Like, there's no way Hunter is going to stop Cad Bane. Right. And I don't think people realize that. Whether you're a casual viewer, know much about his history or not, whether this is the first time, this is somebody that's gone toe-to-toe with Jedi. And he's infiltrated, of course he had some help. He's infiltrated like the Jedi archives at one point.
And he stole Holocron. He stole Palpatine.
Yeah, exactly.
He threatened and tried to basically extort Palpatine.
Yep. He is like the best bounty hunter. During the Clone Wars, I think he was the best bounty hunter. He certainly is at this point, since Boba Fett hasn't really come up to his.
I think he's probably the best one we've seen. Mandalorian's probably in there. Yeah. But yeah.
No, good point. And he's got the Van braces like the Mandalorian. He's got the wire. What is that? I can't remember what that thing's called. Yeah, he's got a lot of the same tools. A lot of the same. He's got like rocket boots that we didn't see him using this. No, he didn't use them.
Didn't need them this time. Yeah.
Yep. But he's got all kinds of things at his disposal.
Right. And he's got Toto 360.
And Toto, yes. Voiced by Seth Green himself.
Oh boy.
But Corey Burton is the actor that does the voice actor for him.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, Corey Burton. He is a legendary character. He is like, for me, not to the same extent, but he is like the Ahsoka, right? He's like an Ahsoka for those of us that watch the Clone Wars, where until she made her big debut, she was, if you watch the Clone Wars, she is a character that stands out. She is like a Hondo Tanaka that most people don't know about. She is like a Cad Bane that most people don't know about, or a Saj Ventress that most people don't know about, right? There was these really big pivotal giants in the Clone Wars, and we're getting to see him, and now he's getting a whole different audience. Now there's a lot of people that are here for the Bad Batch because they were coming off of Clone Wars season 7, which was kind of a, pulling the audience from the Mandalorian as well. So it's really good. I like this, and I like the fact that it's going to open up potentially more appearances for Cad Bane now. And I don't know, maybe Book of Boba, maybe down in some of the other stuff. We don't know where he is, and he's a Duras, so he's got a pretty long lifespan. Right?
Yeah. I think the design of the Duras characters are so cool anyway. The blue skin and the red eyes.
Yep. They're and just so that let's talk about the showdown just quickly.
Yeah.
That again, the fact that you see Hunter for the most part I think he's okay casual. He's not casual. I would say he does seem like a little nervous. He seems on edge. He has every right to be, since he's basically trying to protect Omega. He was not expecting this to be in this position. This isn't something he normally does, right? A showdown. For Cad Bane, this is like another day at the office, and he is so calm. He's so collected. You see Hunter, if you watch visually, Hunter's hand keeps moving further and further down, trying to get advantage. Cad doesn't move. His hand stays right where it's at.
Wrapping at his belt, gently rapping.
Just rapping, just waiting. And then when the time comes, even just the way their movements, Hunter's is very, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of time loss to trying to get his blaster out and fast. Shoot.
Yeah.
And Cad Bane's is all right at the hip. I mean, just like a gunslinger, like he would, again, like he's always done in one of the other episodes. So all of that was great stuff. I did not think that Hunter would win that at all. And he didn't. I mean, he got shot literally in the chest. And
his shot went wildly off too. He didn't get close. He shot off Toto's foot, his booster. And
when you listen to the audio description, which I do sometimes, for this one, I went back and listened to it. It makes it sound like Hunter shot Toto intentionally, but when you go and watch it back in slow motion, it's not. It's the fact that he's still trying to draw and pull up, and when he gets about when his arm gets about level with his head, like he's really exaggerating that movement. That's when he gets shot, and so the weapon is just kind of coming up to aim towards Cad. When he gets hit, and that's why Toto loses his leg, which I never liked that stupid robot.
Yeah, anyways, but he'll live.
Yeah, he'll be fine. I mean,
I didn't expect Hunter to get shot right in the chest, though. I mean, it wasn't looking good, but even still, to have Omega run to him and sobbing over him, and just the smoke coming out of his chest was a little surreal.
Did you think he was dead there?
For a minute, I really thought that maybe they went there. I mean, then reason took over, but I think the original emotional response was, oh my God, how did they kill Hunter of all people, But then logic took over and well, there's no way they could kill Hunter, at least at this stage of the show.
Yeah.
But but it's pretty telling. He took a shot right in the chest. Right. Of course, then we learn how resilient the armor is, but he's still pretty messed up.
Tuan says, I was hoping for a force healing moment.
From who? Omega was already on the ship.
I don't know. I don't know where that would have come from, but yeah, maybe from Omega.
Maybe Omega should be luckier next time.
Yeah. That's right. No, I'm kidding.
Her luck has run out.
Good luck has run out. She's lost all her powers.
That's right.
Okay, so he says, sorry, little lady, sets his blaster to stuns her, takes her, and that's kind of the end of it. We don't see her. And then we see Crosshair getting loaded onto the ship. Again, we've already talked about this, but he's in pretty bad shape. He's really roughed up.
Pretty cool scene, though. You get the inside of his helmet. It was really neat.
That's where Hunter, you're talking about Hunter going back in. That was very, Republic Commando.
Yeah, it was.
Yep. And that was, that moment, I know people were like, oh man, that's Dave Filoni. That's not Dave Filoni. Maybe he said.
It's very video game-ish. I'm right with you. Yeah.
No, and I'm thinking it's more Christian Taylor, the writer of the episode. I mean, I'm sure in the storyboards it says that he makes his way onto the ship, but I don't think Dave Filoni went to the extent of saying, "Hey, now put that in the perspective." I mean, give Christian Taylor credit. He is a very prolific writer, Academy Award-winning writer, and he's a video game nerd. So my gut tells me he was waiting for this moment. He wanted to write in the Republic Commando view because he's played the game and seen it, but that's what it felt like. And it didn't have to be there. We didn't have to have that perspective. But the fact that we did, coming off of the moment that we did, really kind of intensifies a lot of things. In a lot of ways.
Does. I think it was very out of place, though. So while I liked the scene and it did feel like I was instantly back in a video game. I mean, like every game seems to begin like Halo or whatever. Your ship crashes and, you wake up and you don't know. Yeah, and you've got to go find the stuff that crashed everywhere, and you got to get on the ship or you got to stumble, and people are. I mean, it's very tropish video game, but it was out of place though. We don't really have that in this show. And then all of a sudden to have a first person, it did intensify it. So if that was the purpose, then mission accomplished. But it just didn't fit though to me. I liked it. It was cool, but it just didn't really fit for me. I didn't understand the purpose of it entirely. And I was conflicted because I was really cool.
Yeah. No, you're getting old. I mean, Jonesy, come on.
Sure. I can't do the first person shooter games. I mean, I get like motion sickness.
I thought you were, of all people, you were going to be like, oh, that was my favorite moment. Republic Commando. Yeah, man. But no.
No, it was cool. I agree. No, it was cool. I just meant for the show. Yeah.
No, I know. And you're right. Because I'm trying to even think like, when have we had this before?
Or why would you have it kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not hating on it. Like I said, I love the scene, but it just felt out of place.
All right. The shift lifts off. We get the he took Omega, who Crosshair, no, a bounty hunter. We have to find her. No closing music. I mean, it ends kind of on a downer. Very quiet.
Very mid-season. Yeah.
Very deliberate. And that's kind of where it ends. And from here, I mean, let's kind of wrap it up with, I guess, our final thoughts on where the heck do you think this even goes? And questions around that. Cad Bane taking Omega to what's it called?
Camino.
Camino. Thank you. Yeah. Whether he's going to go there. What do you think? And Crosshair, I mean, what do you got as far as speculation? I know we've already kind of talked about some of this naturally, organically as the episode's gone on, but what
sure. Yeah. There are a few things. Clearly the Empire still doesn't know about Omega at all. Right. So I think we had that question kind of lingering a bit a few weeks ago. And I think that's been solidly answered. They were willing to kill her. Now, do they go back directly to Camino? That's a really good question because it would make a lot of sense not to.
Exactly.
I mean, the Empire is there, right? So why would they bring her back in? Because then the Empire will be alerted. So it makes a lot of sense they wouldn't. But then again, all of their research and everything else, they don't leave the planet though. So do they go to a different part of the planet, or is there a different facility that maybe is more secret? Because it still makes a lot of sense for them to have all of what they need. Right. Mm-hmm. With whatever they need to do, they have to have it. And it seems like they do it there. But I'm with you. It could go a different direction. I think also Hunter and the gang have to figure out who these people are and where they're actually taking them and who they're working for. So I think we're probably headed back towards Sid's place is my guess. Or maybe there's another opportunity for us to bring Rex back in, right? Or someone like that to where maybe we get another cameo of sorts. But it make more sense because he might be more connected into some of this because I believe Rex encountered Cad Bane in them, didn't he? Maybe not. Maybe it was just the Jedi. I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Well, he might have.
I don't think they did. Maybe
I don't think he's ever fought him, but I mean, where Anakin was, Rex was always around, right? For the most part. So.
True. Except on Coruscant. When they're on Coruscant, not really, I guess. Anywho, but so I think that's, they've got to figure that out. So Sid seems like to be the most, I assume they're going to have some sort of picture, be able to draw or sketch it out, and Sid's going to be able to find it, just like she did Fennec Shan. And Cad Bane is known, right? Then they could figure out who he is pretty quick, I bet. Mm-hmm. So, and then again, who is hunting the kid? And I think they're probably going to go straight to the Kaminoans. I think they're going to figure that out pretty quick this time. I don't think they're going to skirt around that one too much because, we've got to get them to get back into that conflict and have that three-way conflict going. So I think that's kind of where we're headed in general.
Yeah, I think I'm wondering if we're going to have at a moment, first off, where Omega escapes on her own. She might. I don't know that she can get away from Cad Bane.
Not from Cad Bane.
No, but if he takes her somewhere else, maybe. But so that's one piece that's intriguing. So quickly for me, Crosshair, his injuries, I'm curious as to where that's going to go and what he's going to be like going forward. And we've got a whole half a season still to kind of tell whatever story that's gonna and how that's going to affect the overall story as well. But you're right. I don't know. I'm sorry. Hunter doesn't know anything about Cad Bane. He didn't know anything about Fennec Shan. I think the most logical thing for him to think about or to kind of draw somebody to who would be behind kidnapping her would be the Kaminoans, because I mean that's where they left, and she was there,
and they're the only ones that know about her.
They're the only ones that know about her, right? So I mean, I think that's a kind of a natural place for him to go to. I have a problem though with the Kaminoans wanting her there, because then they know, like, they're going to want to know, well, how did this even happen? And I mean, they could probably make something up and all that, but it just seems messy. And maybe there's a place in there for Cad Bane to have like an escrow location where there's a safe place, a medium place where he meets them and all of that. So, but I think you're right. I think they're going to have to rely on other resources. If they don't naturally go to Camino, if that's not the most obvious, or they, for whatever reason, deduce that that's not the best place or the likely place that she would go to, they're going to need to rely on somebody else. And whether that's a Rex or another cameo, maybe it's Sid that they go back to, and she goes and pulls some strings with Jabba, since they just did that. Maybe there's a way to tie that back, so Jabba's feeding them intelligence, and there's all kinds of ways that they could go about kind of tracing this back to whoever.
All right, you heard it here first. We're going back to Tatooine. It's either that or Jakku.
Jakku. We might.
Oh, don't say things like that to me.
We went back to if you're reading the High Republic, she's over there helping the job, the Hutts already. So
yeah,
but your girl, my girl.
Yeah, she's already getting corrupted.
All right, now
she's pure. I know.
I know she's pure. You can't corrupt her,
except that one time.
All right, stop it. Final thoughts. Oh man.
Well, I'm not lying though.
Spoilers.
I didn't say anything. Good episode. And I like where we ended. I like that we did get a mid-season cliffhanger. I think that was really cool to have, because it does feel like it's an actual season and not just one big story. It feels like there's an actual break. So we've got kind of act 1.5 all out of the way, and now we're going to get to the really good stuff, in the second part of the show. And so but I like it. I think it's good that we've got conflict with Crosshair now. We've got the Kaminoans back in the mix. We've got Bad Batch wounded and not sure what next steps are. And now we've got Cad Bane. We might still have Fennec Shan. Maybe there's a conflict there too. She's still looking, and she promised that she would find the kid. So maybe there's a conflict there, and when we get some bounty hunter action going on and conflict and fighting. So that might be interesting. But overall, though, I'm really liking it. I like where we're at with the show. Just in general with the show, I just feel like we're in a really good place with it. We've not wasted a whole lot of time, and everything that in between, even the things that maybe weren't totally moving forward, have always been really solid. And I think you've really pointed out well of just how good the writing has been and how consistent it's been, even amongst all the different people they've had come in and out. That solid stream of activity and that consistency across the board is so important to have. And I'm glad that we have that in a longer format show with 16 episodes. It feels like we're making good progress, and it's really solid all the way through.
Yep. Sorry, I have to point this out. Risk Bayless says Omega bribes Cad with Mantel mix.
Oh, that is perfect.
That's perfect. That's it. Show's over. That's exactly what.
And then Wrecker gets jealous and goes on a rampage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hondo pops up and takes her. Why not? Sherry, I think, I like where he has that. Any reason to get
Cherry's
Hondo
my
in here?
Cherry's my new favorite. You are live stream listener of the day. Anything Hondo.
Of the day. Yeah, any Hondo reference is good with us.
Right.
All right. Well, we're going to end the show here. Get out of here. I'll edit this and get it out to Patreon. Thanks for everybody that joined on the live feed. Again, we had a lot of new folks that joined tonight. So even if you didn't comment, thanks for coming by. And thanks for, this was a Friday thing because this weekend's Father's Day. And so happy Father's Day to, all the fathers and anybody else. It's the thing, father role. How about that too? Because there are a lot of people that are not fathers that are doing fatherly things, but
happy Father's Day to you too, sir.
Yeah, thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, so we decided to do this on a Friday night, and it looks like we got some new folks that joined us. So definitely appreciate you guys dropping.
Yeah, and real quick, just a shout out for some of these folks: Dale, Cherry, Risk, Steph, Twan, Rob. Yeah, Rob, we mentioned you earlier in the show. We appreciate you jumping on the bandwagon for Patreon there. We had Jeff in here earlier. I don't know if he able to stay with us, but we had a couple new people early on. I think that we're finally able to tune in. We're super excited. So
Michael.
Oh, Michael. Yeah, there he is. Yeah. So appreciate everyone showing up. And again, usually on Sundays, but special day on Friday. Again, if you want to come out and talk to us on Discord, we'd love to have you. The Bad Batch conversation is always hopping throughout the weekend for the most part right after these episodes go. earglemedia.com/Discord. Patreon, if you want to hear what we're about to talk about soon, because Albert churns that one out pretty quick too. We're going to dive into Cad Bane a little bit more, have some fun there.
The Cad Catch.
The Cad Catch, that's right. Sounds like a bad fishing joke, actually. The Cod Catch. That sounds worse. So patreon.com/thecantinacast. It only costs a couple bucks to do that. We appreciate you guys supporting the show. Again, everything goes right back into the show, and we're working hard to produce more content, and you can expect to see more coming soon.
And I'm going to disclose another bounty hunter that I think is going to surface as a result of Cad Bane showing up on the Patreon episode.
Wow, you tease.
And I'm going to tie it together, though. I'm going to show you. I'm going to explain it all.
Oh, boy. I need to still make my tinfoil hat. I'm very disappointed in myself.
Go add it to the checklist of stuff to do during the week.
That I ignore? Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to roll the credits. And Rob, you're not on here just yet, but I will get you on here soon. This is all our Patreon users. So, again, we'll see you guys next week for episode 9. Oh, that's crazy to think about.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.